Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to stick to Sweden and we're going to return to a brewery that has featured on the channel a good couple of times before. I've had some really nice beers from these guys over the years, and I would say that this brewery are known mainly for their kind of lighter, more sessionable beers, and also for some of their sour things as well actually, and we've had some really nice examples of both of those style brackets on the channel before. This month though, April 2021, they decided that they were going to release a series of 3 New England IPAs, and this is the second of the 3 that we're going to review on the channel now. So hopefully this is as good as the last one, and I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this beer as well. So yeah, for this one then, we are going to head up towards Stockholm once again, the capital city, and we're having a look at another beer from Stockholm Brewing Company. So this particular beer is called Kicking Up Sand. It comes in at 6% ABV, and this one is a New England hazy IPA. So this time it's hopped with Victoria's Secret and Motueka. It actually says on the back of the can that it's a New Zealand dry hopped IPA, but I don't understand that because Victoria's Secret is an Australian hop. So yeah, maybe it would have been better to say South Pacific dry hopped IPA, maybe just a little typo or something like that. But yeah, I've had both of the hops in this one before. Victoria's Secret, roughly 11 or 12% alpha acid, some lovely kind of tropical notes out of that, passion fruit, apricot, pineapples, things like that, kind of the little brother if you like of Galaxy. And then Motueka is from New Zealand. That's about 8% alpha acid normally, if I remember rightly, and it's got a lovely big kind of oily limey character to it actually. But yeah, the last beer that we had in this kind of mini series if you like was called Make Me Smile. That was a European hopped one, and that had Hallertau Blanc from Germany and Styrian Wolf from Slovenia, and that worked out very nicely. Quite a farmhousey IPA actually, but this beer is supposed to be pretty much the same base beer, just with different hops, so it should be pretty good actually. This will be quite an interesting combination of things. So yeah, very much looking forward to trying this one. Nice to feature Stockholm Brewing Company on the channel again for you, and I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this beer as well. So yeah, as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Stockholm Brewing Company before, and you will no doubt see more added to that list in the near future. We do have the other IPA from this mini-series to review later in the month, so you'll see that sooner. But there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you happen to be interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Swedish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to, and as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Stockholm Brewing Company then, on to my brewery notes. So Stockholm Brewing Company, as I've told you and the name suggests, are based in Stockholm, the Swedish capital, and the company was founded back in 2012 by Niklas Jakobsson, Thomas Hallgren and Niklas Lenkel. So these guys were also the first craft brewery in Sweden to open up a tasting bar at their brewery, and this was one of the kind of many things that has happened. It was one of the first things that has happened in terms of liberalising the very strict Swedish alcohol laws. But over their first few years, they continued to grow, and by 2016, they were brewing around 150,000 litres of beer per year. The brewery were originally based in Söder in Stockholm, but they moved in 2018 to a new place in an old brick house in Frihamnen out to the east of the city, and they also had a restaurant there for a period of time as well. But they had a collaboration farm outside of Stockholm, or a collaboration with a farm, I should say, outside of Stockholm, which was called the Karshamra Trade God, and a chunk of the things that they were using in the restaurant were actually coming from there. So Agnes and Maurits, the farmers, were also involved in the restaurant side of the business, but it went bust unfortunately, and they have been trying to reopen it for lunch from what I understand. But the current brewer at the brewery is Mikael RampantLionReviews, if I'm pronouncing his name correctly. It's a little bit difficult with the W's in Swedish actually, because you never know whether it's a W or a V. But yeah, Mikael RampantLionReviews is the head brewer, and he's assisted by Albin and Max. But they also have Sweden's first commercial coolship in their brewery too, so there's many more sour beers going to be released from these guys over the next little while. And there have been some interesting sours over the last little bit as well, but you know, they're releasing these quite thick and fast, so I can't review all of them, and I think I've had quite a few sours in recent times from other breweries, but I will need to look at some of the Stockholm sours at some point soon as well. But these guys invested in 2 fodders in 2019, and then in 2020 they invested in a new 2,000 litre brew kit, which took their capacity up considerably to around 300,000 litres of beer per year. Their older brew kit that they had, from what I understand, was Beerbibliothek's original brew kit, and that was from Brewfab in Scotland, from what I understand. So that was quite an old kit, and they said it didn't really work properly anymore. So yeah, there you go. But these guys were also affiliated with the company Wine Trade, which was run by Ollie Bartlett, and he's now managing Stockholm Brewing Company, and he's a partner in the company as well. But as of April 2021, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced around 190 different kinds of beer, so they're very prolific. And as I say, they kind of focus on sort of quite sessionable beers, I would say, you know, lighter, drinkable things. If they're doing some New England IPAs now, this will be quite an interesting development. We've been doing a lot of different Pilsners recently, and they've also they've also been doing some of these lighter, more kind of golden sours, in fact. So yeah, the last beer I had from them before these IPAs was the Rice Lager, and I thought that was very nicely done, actually, potentially the best lager that I'd had from them so far. So yeah, definitely a brewery that you should check out if you're interested in things as well. And I think they try to make everything as organic as they possibly can too. So yeah, that's all I can really tell you about Stockholm Brewing Company for the moment. Ollie, of course, who I mentioned earlier, he always keeps me up to date with the latest information at the brewery. So yeah, he keeps an eye on the videos that are coming out and watches them, and then tells me any information that has changed and been updated as well, which is pretty cool of him. So big shout out to Ollie in this video as well. It's thanks to him that you're getting up to date notes on the brewery, in fact. So yeah, let's get on and actually have a taste of this beer. If you want to learn more about the brewery, you can check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn more about all the different beers that these guys have done. But yeah, let's crack on, have a little look at this one then. So as you can see, the artwork on this one is quite minimalist, and you know, this is very common for New England IPAs these days. It's not a million miles away from what we had on the Make Me Smile. There you can see on the back, you can see this one here. But yeah, Stockholm Brewing Company, Kicking Up Sand, 6% New England IPA, New Zealand dry hopped, Victoria's Secret and Motueka. But like we said, Victoria's Secret is an Australian hop. But yeah, 440 milliliter can. I think I paid 45 Swedish kroners for this one. That's kind of the standard for a 440 milliliter can. So that is €4.50, just a little touch over £4 sterling, and then maybe $5.25, $5.50 American for those of you watching in different parts of the world. But yeah, let's crack this one open then and see how we get on. Very curious to see what this beer has in store for us then. Yes. So, oh, got a little bit excited there. Yeah, there we go. So that will do, I think. At the moment there's still about a quarter of it or so in the can. So let me just line that up again so that my OCD is happy. And there we go. So I just rinsed this glass here and I'm getting carbonation sticking to the side of it. That's annoying. Yeah, anyway. Well, I didn't rinse it, I washed it and then rinsed it again when I went to use it. But yeah, so anyway, before the head disappears, you can see that it's poured with about a quarter, somewhere between a quarter and a half finger, maybe a third finger of a frothy white head. That is just going to fade away very, very quickly though, and leave you a nice foamy ring around the edge of the glass. But yeah, it looks pretty nice. One of the things also to point out about this beer, apparently it's Simpsons extra pale malts they're using in this one, and it's named after a Beastie Boys song. Not too familiar with the Beastie Boys because it's not satanic and metal enough for me, but yeah, they are kind of a classic band, of course. I probably should listen to them at some stage. But yeah, in terms of a New England IPA, it's kind of as you would expect. It's got a lovely kind of foamy ring just around the edge of the glass. Now that head has faded away to just be a very kind of thin, wispy layer. But in terms of the colour of this one, it's a lovely, very bright yellow actually. It's a little bit paler than it's appearing on the camera. I'm just checking the little viewfinder there. But it's a little bit paler than that, I would say. So maybe if we're comparing it to fruit juices, as I like to do with New England IPAs, I would describe this one as being somewhere between a pineapple juice and a mango juice, but leaning a little bit more towards the kind of richer mango juice colour. But one or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, a few little ones going up towards the bottom of the head there, but overall it does look pretty nice. Remember, the colour of your beer is dependent on 1, the type of malts that you use, and 2, the length of your wort boil. The longer you boil the wort, the more the sugar's caramelised, thus you get a darker colour of beer. But of course, you know, it depends in the first instance what type of malts you use. So that's That's a big deal. But yeah, yeah, it certainly just looks like a kind of normal New England IPA. There's nothing particularly surprising about the appearance in this one, but then the haziness I think is quite impressive in this. So as I've said to you, the last one that we had from these guys did come across as being a little bit sort of farmhousey and yeasty in a sense, and that might go some way towards explaining the haze in this one. So the haze is the level of haze you get in these beers. Theoretically speaking, as you go up the alcohol scale, you should get more haze, but it's all to do with the oats, the wheat, and the yeast to a degree as well. So it varies from brewery to brewery. It's not wholly just dependent on the it's not wholly dependent on the percentage, if you like. It varies from brewery to brewery. It's all to do with the ratios and stuff. But yeah, as far as a New England IPA goes, nothing particularly surprising about its appearance. Let's take a closer look at the aroma and just see how we get on then. Yeah, it smells pretty similar to the other one. When it's the same base beer, that makes sense. So let's see, I'll just do this as we always do, and then I'll have a look at the other one later and see if I picked up anything different. But yeah, yeah, the thing, as I've said before, that you always get with these Stockholm Brewing Company beers, they've always just got this little farmhousey vibe to them, and I think they must be using like house yeast or something like that. And I think it's also the organic grains that they use that give you this aroma to a degree as well. But yeah, the backbone of this beer, it has a little bit of a sort of Jacob's cream cracker kind of thing to it. You can smell that sort of yeasty, just farmhousey doughy bread sort of thing in there. You definitely get a little bit of that in this one. There's some nice bread crusty elements in there as well. But yeah, it's quite interesting. I have to say, I'm finding it a little bit less pronounced this time than I did with the other one. But then again, it's maybe just because I hadn't had a Stockholm beer in maybe 2 or 3 months or something like that. So maybe I'm just like, yeah, okay, it's not quite as striking this time round, because you have to remember your palate and your nose is always evolving as you're trying lots and lots of different beers. That's always the thing. But yeah, as I say, you do get that sort of typical, or that signature farmhousey vibe from this beer. Jacob's cream cracker underneath, a little bit of a kind of white bready, doughy sort of thing in there. And then also you get a wee bit of a, you do get a wee touch of a kind of grainy element as well, which is quite nice. Some bread crust for sure, and you can smell the nice kind of oaty character just sitting on top of that. So these Simpsons Extra Pale Malts, I think Simpsons is an English malt brand if I'm remembering rightly, but yeah, you can smell that soft white bready character sitting on top of it. Then you definitely pick out the smoothness of the oats in there. So for me, the oats actually come across, they've got a little bit of creaminess to them, and you do get a wee touch of that kind of Werther's Original sort of butter candy thing coming out of the middle of this beer. So yeah, it's got a lovely just little touch of sweetness, I would say. So yeah, I can certainly appreciate that about this beer for sure. So yeah, I really like how this how the malty side of this beer and the yeastiness goes together. It's a little bit, it seems, I don't know, it seems a little bit more refined this time to when I tried the first one. So again, as I say, your nose and your palate is always evolving, so it's it might just be the fact that the last one, because I haven't had a beer from these guys, was so striking, if you like, but this time it seems as if it's mellowed out a little bit. It could also be the fact that I'm drinking this beer, maybe about 5 or 6 days older than the other one. So yeah, that's the other thing. But yeah, you definitely get a little bit of wheaty bitiness out of this one as well. At the back of the nose, you can get a wee bit of a wheaty kind of bitiness out of it too. But yeah, I have to say, I do like the kind of malty, yeasty side of this beer, and I think it's always very, it's quite underappreciated, if you like, how difficult it is to get a good malt and yeasty backbone to these beers. A lot of people just focus on the hops, and for me, that's the wrong approach. I think you've got to, I think you've got to focus on everything. Having a good yeast, having a good malt, and having a good hop. It's basically it's all about trying to find, the perfect, the perfect meeting, if you like. It's trying to get all of these three things to come together. So you have to focus on all three of them in my mind. But yeah, I think that covers the kind of malty, yeasty side of the aroma, if you like. But yeah, on the hoppy side of things, there's a wee touch of earthiness in there, but not too much. The green component for me is a lot more about the kind of floral aromatic side of things. As I say, Victoria's Secret has got a big floral component to it. It's about 12% alfaz, whereas Motueka is like 8 or so, if I remember rightly. because I remember looking up Motueka and thinking it was a big 11 or 12% thing, and then I was surprised that it was only 8. But then Nelson Sauvin is like 16. Quite a lot of the New Zealand hops actually are lower in alpha acid compared to what you would think. Yeah, the aroma of this, the green component for me, is a lovely, very bright floral kind of character, and it's not spicy as such, but you do get a good wee bit of grassy zestiness out of this one for sure. So yeah, green component for me is a lovely bright floral note, a little bit of a kind of grassy zestiness, and overall it works out really nicely. So yeah, lovely green component to this one. Certainly gets a thumbs up from me on that side of things. But yeah, the fruity component of the beer then, this will be the interesting part. Well, it's all interesting, but yeah, I always enjoy looking at the fruity side of things. So, for me, this one comes across, it's got a good balance between the citrusy and the tropical side of things. So you do get a wee touch of that stronger passion fruit in there, but I'm getting a lot of apricot out of this one. I'm getting a bit of pineapple. These are things that you would kind of expect from Victoria's Secret. Victoria's Secret, I remember, can have just a little bit of that pungent thing in it, but then it's got apricot and it's got pineapple in behind it too. So yeah, I really like how it goes about its how everything kind of goes about its business in this beer. Absolutely. So yeah, the fruity side of this beer is quite nice, but you do get that lovely big oily limey kind of thing from Motueka in this as well, so that gives the beer a little bit of a kind of citrusy, zesty kind of quality as well. But the lime is more oily with Motueka from what I remember, but I do, it does help promote the kind of grassy, zesty part of the green component as well. So yeah, I think the fruity, zesty part of this beer is really interesting. So yeah, it's well balanced, this one. It does strike me as being a little bit more kind of mellow, if that makes sense, than the last one we had out of this series. But yeah, anyway, let's put the rest of this in the glass and just see how we get on then. It's about time to taste this one. So yeah, this one is the Kicking Up Sand 6% New England IPA, hazy IPA, whatever you want to call it, from Stockholm Brewing Company. South Pacific hop this time. And I think this one should be pretty nice. Victoria's Secret and Motueka. So let's get stuck in. Slàinte, skål, cheers. Yeah, it's pretty nice. I mean, I would say that in the flavour it is actually a lot more kind of yeasty and farmhousey in a sense than the aroma would have you believe, actually. So yeah, the aroma might change a little bit, but I think the back, this beer is quite similar to what we had last time around in this mini series. So yeah. But yeah, another solid offering from Stockholm Brewing Company. I'll say to them, thumbs up for this one. But yeah, in a sense, it does, even in the flavour, it does mellow out actually. I really like how all of this goes about its business. So yeah, I think it's I think the backbone of this beer is really, really nice. So I mean, it does get a little bit more kind of grainy and things the further you go into the aftertaste with it as well. So it's really interesting. That must be a mix of those organic grains and a bit of the yeast that gives it that. But yeah, let's try and break down the flavour of this one then. So the backbone of this beer, very nice, smooth, kind of, it's got a little bit of a kind of smooth bread crusty backbone to it. That's the baseline of this beer. Within that you get a little bit of that kind of Jacob's cream cracker sort of thing. We'll talk about, on the back third of your palate it's really quite grainy in a sense, but as you move into that kind of middle third of your palate, the backbone of the beer is a bit more Jacob's cream crackery. There's a little touch of woodiness in there and just a few lighter bread crusty elements. So yeah, there is a wee bit of that kind of farmhousey thing going on. The yeast, I think, is contributing to this as well. So yeah, it is as I say, very similar to the last one we had in this this kind of mini series, if you like. But yeah, on top of that kind of bread crusty, crackery, how do you say, yeah, on top of the bread crusty, crackery, sort of woody there that the beer has, you do get a nice little layer of a kind of fresh, soft, white bready character. That's just sitting on top of there. Then on top of this layer, if you go down the middle line of your tongue, you can feel the nice oatiness there, and that spreads out across the across to the sides of the palate, which is very nice actually. I really like how that side of things goes together in this beer. So yeah, you will find as well that in the very centre of your palate, it does sweeten up slightly. You know, it does sweeten up a little bit, and then you get more and more you get a little bit of that kind of Werther's Original sort of sweetness coming out of it as well. So I can really appreciate that about this beer for sure. There's some really interesting characteristics to this one, definitely. You get a wee bit of that Werther's Original butter candy type sweetness, and then maybe a little touch of biscuitiness as you move out towards the edge of the palate there. Those are the kind of alcohol-y flavours, right enough. But yeah, the middle third of your palate, as you can tell, it's very, very layered in this one, and I think that works quite nicely actually. So yeah, yeah, woody, bread crusty, kind of grainy backbone, soft white bread on top, some nice oaty smoothness in there, and then a nice little bit of a kind of Werther's Originally kind of flavour on top of that. So I like it. But yeah, on top of that then, so on the border region between middle third and back third of your palate, you've got a nice little bit of a kind of more doughy, bready kind of thing sitting on top of that. So I do like that. You do get a little bit more of a grainy element to it as well. You can feel that sort of more grainy bread crust in the back third of your palate. Like I say, the backbone of that is really quite grainy, and you can feel the more airy, yeasty, the airy, yeasty things kind of sitting on top of that. So when you start at the back of the palate, the flavour's quite tall, and you can just feel it kind of gradually condensing down. Then as you reach the border region, it goes down quite sharply. Then into the middle third of your palate, you can feel the flavours are a little bit more kind of squashed together actually. I do like that the back third of the tongue is a little bit more kind of yeasty in a sense. But yeah, back corners of the palate, you've got a nice little bit of earthiness in there. As you move further forward, and the earthiness builds a good bridge with the sort of grainy backbone of the beer, but as you move further forward, it's a little bit herbal, and as you move to the kind of front corners of the palate, it's got a very nice sort of, you know, it starts to build up a little bit of a more kind of floral note there, and it does have a good little bit of floral aromaticity and even a touch of spice on the front corners of the palate. Round the front curve of the tongue though, it's distinctly lighter and grassy, and there is a wee bit of zestiness in there for sure. But yeah, the green component is mainly big and floral, as the aroma kind of showed us before. But let's focus on the fruity side of things then. So, pardon me, on that front third of your palate, you've got that nice, how do we say, you have got that nice kind of big doughy, yeasty kind of thing sitting there. So in that border region between front third and middle third, there's a bit of doughy yeast again. There's a good little bit of a kind of, there is a good little bit of a sort of grainy, how do we say, there is a little bit of a sort of grainy, bread crusty kind of thing there, and then the base of that front third of your tongue, it is a little bit more of a, how would we say, it does have a little bit of that kind of grainy, woody backbone to it again. So yeah, a bit of a bread crusty, grainy kind of backbone underneath the fruits there. But as I always say, on that front third of your palate, you get that nice oily bubble where those juicy fruity esters just roll their way out of the beer. So let's focus on that then, the fruits coming out of the hops. So yeah, at the back of that front third of your palate then, you do get a wee touch of that slightly more pungent passion fruit, but as you move further forward, it really mellows out quite nicely. You get a bit of a mango, you get a bit of an apricot, but I actually get quite a bit of pineapple off this one. I was forgetting that Victoria's Secret can give you some really nice sort of pineapple-y elements. But yeah, the way that the tropical fruit mellows out in this one is also very, very nice. But on the front half of that front third of your tongue, there's a lovely sort of oily kind of limey note, and again, that's the Motueka that's giving you that. So this one is quite separated in terms of tropical at the back half of that front third of your palate and more citrusy elements in the front half. But yeah, quite a nice oily, quite a nice sort of oily, tropically fruit note coming out of it, and I think it works. I do think it works really quite well. So yeah. But yeah, that the limey note actually kind of mellows out a wee bit more, and it almost gives you the impression of a slight kind of orangey vibe as well, which is interesting. So yeah, the fruity components of this beer are very, very interesting indeed, actually. So yeah, this is interesting for sure. So yeah, the fruity side of this one, it is quite nice. The more that you go into the aftertaste, I think you get a wee bit more of the pungent passion fruity notes out of the back of that fruity side of things, but at the same time the softer tropical notes are there, then the oily zestiness from the lime is coming out. So yeah, really interesting this, but another pretty damn solid New England IPA from Stockholm Brewing. As I say, overall it's quite a farmhousey leaning beer, this one, but I think it works. You know, these guys, I would say the sort of signature vibe of Stockholm Brewing Company is quite farmhousey, generally speaking. These beers always remind me a little bit of some of the things that you would get from the likes of Alchemist over in the States. Their ones were definitely a little bit more sort of farmhousey and sort of rye leaning and things as well. So yeah, definitely an interesting perspective to take on these beers. But yeah, that's it for the flavour side of things then. Let's just describe the mouthfeel then to round off the review. So mouthfeel wise, definitely a mid-bodied beer, straight in the middle of the spectrum, smooth carbonation. So yeah, nice smooth carbonation in this one. Beer does have a wee bit of slickness to it, in fairness, as well, which I can certainly appreciate. And yeah, I think it works. It does work very well in that sense too. So quite a smooth beer, and it does develop a little bit of creaminess, I think, as well, but just that's kind of quite minimal. In terms of hoppy bitterness and things, I think this is a fairly standard 30 IBUs, maybe 40 at a push, dare we say. But yeah, I think that certainly works for this beer, absolutely. So in terms of the malty side of things, as I say, it's got a bit of a grainy backbone to it, and it's quite sort of farmhousey and airy, if you like. There's not really much sweetness to this malt base. It is more of a kind of grainy, farmhousey, woody sort of thing you've got out of this, and that comes out a bit more the further you go into the aftertaste. Even the middle part of your palate will become progressively more grainy and woody the further you go into the aftertaste. But the fruity side of things is nice and juicy, and it's got a wee bit of a kind of oily, kind of limey, you know, it's got a wee bit of a sort of oily limey character to it as well. So yeah, it's got a wee bit of a kind of oily citrusy fruit and a softer tropical element to it. So yeah, I think this one comes out very, very nicely. So big thumbs up to Stockholm Brewing Company for this beer. Again, I think they've done a solid job with this. So yeah, I guess we can leave it at that for this review then. So once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Stockholm Brewing Company, and you will see me review the third beer, which is an American hopped one, in this mini-series in a few videos time. So keep your eyes peeled for that, and we'll see what else we can get from Stockholm Brewing Company in the future. But check out my social media, check out theirs, and I will catch you guys very soon with the next review. This one is Kicking Up Sand, 6% New England IPA with Victoria's Secret from Australia and Motueka from New Zealand, brewed by Stockholm Brewing Company in Stockholm here in Sweden. Slanja, skål, cheers, and see you on the next one.